Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan, and the topic of this 10-minute moan is a quite outrageous situation whereby a man was deported from the country after being taken to jail, sneaked back into the country, and the European courts have got involved to say he's allowed to stay in the country. Bonkers. So this story, a few people have been covering it. I'm going to use the Telegraph. I pay for my subscription. I may as well get a benefit out of it. And their headline is, Deported Albanian sneaks back into UK and uses the ECHR to stay. The ECHR being the European Convention for Human Rights. Quite an outdated bit of legislation that some people have turned to a positive for them and seem to be abusing it. And this seems to be led by the ever-growing number of human rights lawyers we have in the United Kingdom at present. The story goes, an Albanian criminal who sneaked back into Britain after being deported has won the right to stay under the European Convention of Human Rights. Ardit Binaj, 32, was freed 6 months into a 2.5-year jail sentence for burglary and deported as part of a prisoner transfer agreement with Albania. Yep, you heard that right. He was freed after 6 months of a 2.5-year jail sentence. However, within months, he re-entered Britain in breach of his deportation order to be with his Lithuanian girlfriend, who had leave to remain in the UK under the government's EU resettlement scheme. They subsequently had a baby and married, enabling him to lodge his successful claim that an attempt by the Home Office to deport him would breach his Article 8 ECHR rights to a family life. The case, revealed in court documents seen by the Telegraph, will revive demands for Britain to quit or seek reform for the ECHR. I tend to agree with that. I think we should just bin it. Because the ECHR is a very old piece of legislation and times have changed. And people are now abusing it for their own means. And this man is not alone, where he's got a lawyer to find loopholes. This man broke the law twice. Three times. Once when he came into the country, second time when he went to jail, then he was deported back to Albania as part of an agreement we have with Albania, before coming back into the country illegally. So he's broke the law 3 times, and now we've got a 60-year-old bit of convention legislation saying that, yeah, this man can come in. Last week, Boris Johnson said a referendum should be held on membership of the convention, which critics say prevents Britain from having full control of its immigration policy and blocks its sovereign right to deport criminals or migrants who have illegally entered the United Kingdom. ECHR membership has become a key battleground in the Tory leadership contest. Robert Jenrick has promised to take Britain out of it. Tom Tugendhat has said he would be prepared to leave, while Kemi Badenoch has said she would not rule out leaving it, but that it alone would not address the root of the problem. James Cleverly is not in favour of doing so. Mr Jenrick, a former immigration minister, said Binaj's case was another example of how the ECHR prevented the UK from securing its borders. The convention has been stretched so far beyond recognition that its border are chartered for criminals. He said it has repeatedly offered loopholes to dangerous foreign criminals who threaten the British public so they can avoid deportation. Reform of Article 8 is a fantasy. The only way we can put an end to this farcical cases like this is if we leave the convention altogether and guarantee our own rights. I kind of agree with you. The use of Article 8 has been the target of criticism for more than a decade for barring deportations, such as that of Lirko Shindamu, the murderer of the head teacher, Philip Lawrence, to Italy. Theresa May, when Home Secretary, claimed Article 8's meaning had been perverted by the courts, citing the cases of an illegal immigrant who could not be removed because he had a pet cat. Judges subsequently disputed her interpretation of the case. That's the problem with laws. It's not the actual when you set it, that you're setting it in a specific time in history when things change. But you also leave challenges and how courts deal with it, because as soon as a court interprets something slightly different, that then becomes precedence, and the law in effect evolves slightly, and when that's through a period of 60 or 80 years, then it can sometimes look nothing like the reasons it was intended for in the first place, and the ECHR is certainly one of those, in my opinion. Binaj entered the UK illegally in a lorry in 2014 before being arrested the next year for burglary. He was jailed for 30 months in 2016 for the break-in, alongside a 6 months prison term for another burglary and an 18 weeks for a separate theft. The judge in Binaj's initial appeal hearing said the Albanian had claimed he had sought early release from jail so he could return to his home country to be with his grandmother, who was very ill and subsequently died. But this claim was not accepted by the judge. Instead, she believed he had returned to Albania to avoid serving his prison sentence. Just 5 months after being deported, he re-entered Britain in January 2017, although the documents do not show how. Binaj deliberately waited until his son was born in 2020 before applying for the right to stay in the UK under an EU settlement scheme, as he believed that would increase his chances of remaining in the United Kingdom, said the judge. He married Diana Belgova, his girlfriend and the mother of his son, a month later, but his application to stay was rejected, and in February last year, the Home Office moved once again to deport him. Binaj then claimed removal would breach his Article 8 rights to a family life. His lawyers argued that his wife was suffering severe anxiety and depression due to symptoms after recently discovering that her mother had died a violent death when Ms. Belgova was 11. I'm taking it Ms. Belgova, who's now had a child, is not 11 anymore, so that's a bit of a strange one. The tribunal was told that his wife's problems had been compounded by her grandmother's illness, her aunt's husband's suicide, and a scare over her son's health. These unfortunate people never seem far from unfortunate situations, which is really, really incredibly unfortunate. The judge accepted that it would be unduly harsh on her or her son to be separated from Binaj, and that she might be unable to get appropriate medical treatment in Albania. The fact that Binaj was also working illegally in the UK was not judged to have undermined his claim. As a result, the judge granted the appeal in March this year on the grounds that it would breach his Article 8 rights to be deported. Mr. Cleverly, at the time Home Secretary, challenged the ruling on the basis that it was not unduly harsh to return Binaj to Albania, and it was a strong public interest in deporting a convicted criminal. But the judge's ruling was upheld by the Upper Immigration Tribunal. A Home Office spokesman said foreign nationals who commit crimes should be in no doubt that the law will be enforced, and where appropriate, we will pursue their deportation and ensure the rules are respected and enforced. We have already begun delivering a major surge in immigration enforcement and returns activity to remove people with no right to be in the UK, with 3,000 people already being returned since the new government came into power. A Home Office source added, under our plans, over 20% more people who have no right to be here are being removed from this country. This is in stark contrast to the Tories, who allowed everyone to stay indefinitely in taxpayer-funded accommodation. So, there we have it. What a story. It's bonkers. It is absolutely mental that we have... we're not in the EU anymore, for one. We voted for Brexit, and I believe the majority of people, or a fair chunk of people that voted for Brexit, done so Britain could protect its own border and control immigration, and who we can let in the country and who we don't. So this man came into the country illegally, broken the law 3 times, because we now know that he committed criminal crimes 3 times, when that came up in his court case, for burglary and theft. So that's action 2. So he's come in illegally, he's broke the laws of your country numerous times. We then deport him. He comes back within a year and breaks the law again for a 3rd time. While he's here, we've since found out he's broke the law by working illegally. So that's 4 times the man's broken the law. And we cannot deport him because of a ridiculous, outdated piece of legislation that is actually ruled by Europe. Absolutely bonkers. So do the right thing, tighten up our borders, control immigration, send criminals home. Now, I don't think we should do it when they finish their terms. I think we should do it immediately. If you break the law and you're found guilty in a court of law, bye-bye, go. You're not allowed here anymore, regardless if you come into the country legally or illegally. If you're not a British citizen, you broke the laws of this country, I don't see why the British taxpayer should pay £50,000 per year to keep you in a British jail. Jails that are already overcrowded. And we've got 11,000 foreign nationals in our jails just now. Imagine if we made that law right now, we deport them. We have got quite an empty and no pressures on our jail system throughout the length and breadth of the United Kingdom. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please consider subscribing and hitting the notifications bell. But most importantly of all, unless you're some of these crackpots that don't think we should come out of the ECHR, or anybody who uses it as a loophole to keep them here illegally, and particularly if you are one of these ever-increasing number of highly paid human rights lawyers who are making a fortune out of this new industry, not you, but...
Have a great day. Bye now.